Behind those dazzling smiles, that effortless confidence, and the magnetic presence we see on screen, Hollywood's brightest stars often carry stories the spotlight never touches. Few people realize that many of these icons were shaped, almost forged, by childhoods filled with hardship, loneliness, poverty, or trauma. Those early scars became the steel that later turned them into legends. Today we open the long closed doors of the past to uncover the real childhoods behind Hollywood's most unforgettable stars. Clara Bow didn't just light up the screen, she exploded onto it. But before she became the face of the Roaring Twenties, the it girl who defined the flapper era, her life looked nothing like the glitter of Hollywood. She was born into poverty in a cramped Brooklyn home where survival was the only luxury. Her mother battled mental illness, her father was abusive, and little Clara learned far too soon that the world could be cruel long before she learned how to pose for a camera. Movies became her escape, a dark theater, a glowing screen, and the feeling that maybe, somewhere out there, life could be different. And when she won a small-town talent contest, that door cracked open. Hollywood noticed the fire she carried, even if the studios didn't always know what to do with it. Clara rose fast. Audiences adored her raw energy, her freedom, the way she seemed to leap straight out of the jazz age itself. Yet, behind the fame, the anxiety never left. Fame magnified the insecurities born in childhood. The whispers about her past, the tabloids tearing at her love life, the pressure to stay perfect. But here's the truth. Clara Bow survived what should have broken her. She turned a childhood of chaos into a career that rewrote what a woman could be on screen. Bold, modern, unafraid. Her films may fade, but her story, that transformation from pain to power, is the reason she remains a legend. Frances Farmer was the kind of star Hollywood adored and feared at the same time. Not because of beauty or scandal, but because of the raw truth burning behind her eyes. She grew up in a household loaded with tension, raised on arguments, pressure, and expectations no child should ever carry. Frances always felt out of place, like she'd walked into life through the wrong door. Her childhood wasn't filled with rehearsals or dreams of the stage. It was rebellion, survival, and trying to outrun the emotional weight she was born into. When she finally reached Hollywood, her talent hit like a shockwave. Frances didn't act, she was. Every performance felt honest, sharp, and alive. Audiences loved it, but the studio system didn't. A woman who thought for herself, who questioned authority, who refused to play by their rules, Hollywood never liked that. And slowly, the instability from her past began to collide with the pressure of fame. The public fights, the tabloid headlines, the rumors about her mental state, they turned Frances into one of Hollywood's most tragic symbols. But here's what most people miss. The downfall didn't start in Hollywood. It started long before, in a childhood that offered no safety, no softness, no place to land. Frances Farmer didn't break because she was weak. She broke because she'd been carrying cracks her whole life. And that's what makes her story unforgettable. A blazing talent swallowed not by fame, but by the shadows that followed her from the very beginning. Hedy Lamarr is one of those Hollywood legends people think they already know. The stunning face, the exotic mystery, the woman who could stop a room just by walking through the door. But the truth is, her beauty was the least interesting thing about her, and definitely not the part shaped by her childhood. She grew up in Vienna, in a home that looked polished from the outside, but felt suffocating on the inside. Her father adored her, teaching her how things worked, how machines breathed and moved. But her mother pushed perfection like it was the only currency that mattered, and as Hedy got older, that pressure tightened around her life like a closed fist. She was barely more than a teenager when she married a powerful, controlling arms dealer, a man who treated her like an ornament he owned. Locked away in his mansion, watched constantly, Hedy learned early what it meant to be trapped. Those years carved something sharp inside her, a need to escape, to think for herself, to never be caged again. When she finally ran from that life and stepped into Hollywood, she wasn't just chasing fame, she was claiming freedom. And while the studios wanted to sell her as the most beautiful woman in the world, they had no idea she was quietly inventing, designing, and dreaming far beyond the screen. Hedy Lamarr survived a childhood of control and confinement, and turned it into a life defined by boldness, intelligence, and the kind of independence no one could script. Her past didn't break her. It made her unstoppable. Judy Garland is one of those names that feels woven into Hollywood's DNA. The voice, the sparkle, the girl who carried Somewhere Over the Rainbow on her shoulders. But that magic everyone remembers? It didn't come from a happy childhood. It came from a kid who was pushed far too hard, far too young. Judy was born into a family that treated performing like survival. Before she even understood what applause meant, she was already on stage, already working, already being molded into the next big thing. Her mother, ambitious, relentless, kept her moving, singing, practicing, like childhood was something she could pick up later. Spoiler, she never got the chance. By the time she reached Hollywood, Judy wasn't a girl chasing a dream. She was a product the studios were ready to reshape. They controlled her looks, her weight, her sleep, even her emotions. When she was tired, they gave her pills. When she was too wired, they gave her more pills. At an age when most kids are learning who they are, Judy was learning how to stay awake, how to stay thin, how to stay marketable. But here's what people forget. Despite all that pressure, all that manipulation, she still shined. That voice carried heartbreak way beyond her years, and audiences felt it because it was real. Judy Garland wasn't a tragedy because she was weak. She was a tragedy because she was never allowed to be a child, never allowed to be human. The world saw a superstar. But behind the curtain was a girl who deserved softness long before she ever learned to sing about rainbows. Dorothy Dandridge had the kind of beauty Hollywood couldn't ignore. Graceful, magnetic, effortlessly elegant. But the path that brought her there was anything but glamorous. Long before she became the first black woman nominated for a Best Actress Oscar, Dorothy was a little girl growing up in poverty, learning far too early how harsh the world could be. Her mother pushed her and her sister into performing almost as soon as they could walk. They toured small clubs, hotels, back rooms, places where kids didn't belong but had to be if they wanted to eat. Dorothy watched adults drink, gamble, flirt, and sometimes cross boundaries no child should ever witness. The racism was constant, cruel, and unavoidable. She learned to keep her head down, her smile ready, and her fear hidden. Even as her talent grew, the instability never stopped. Her father wasn't around, money was always tight, and the adults in her life were overwhelmed, distracted, or broken themselves. Dorothy carried that weight, the insecurity, the survival instinct, straight into Hollywood. And yet, when the cameras rolled, she shined like no one else. Her poise came from years of performing under pressure. Her vulnerability on screen came from real pain she'd never fully escaped. Dorothy Dandridge didn't rise in spite of her childhood. She rose because of it. Every step, every note, every scene carried the strength of a girl who had to grow up before she ever had the chance to be a child. Ava Gardner is one of those stars people remember for the smoldering eyes, the southern drawl, the effortless glamour. But none of that came from an easy beginning. Before Hollywood ever touched her, Ava was just a barefoot girl from rural North Carolina, growing up in a world where money was scarce and life demanded toughness from the start. Her family worked hard just to get by. They ran a small boarding house, took whatever jobs they could, and still lived on the edge of poverty. Ava grew up hearing grown-ups worry about bills, watching her parents break their backs just to keep food on the table. There was no fantasy, no luxury, just long days, hand-me-down dresses, and a childhood built on resilience. When her father died, everything became even heavier. Ava was still young, but loss like that ages you fast. It teaches you that nothing is promised, that the world takes before it gives. And maybe that's why, when she finally stepped into Hollywood, she carried this quiet strength beneath her beauty. Something grounded, something unshakable. Studios tried to polish her, mold her, dress her up as the ultimate femme fatale. But the truth is, Ava's power didn't come from makeup or lighting. It came from that girl who survived a hard childhood, who learned early how to endure, how to read people, how to protect herself. Ava Gardner wasn't just a screen siren. She was a product of grit, loss, and a childhood that taught her the kind of toughness no acting coach could ever teach. Her past didn't dim her. It sharpened her into a legend. Rita Hayworth may have been the ultimate Hollywood fantasy, the red-haired dream girl who could hypnotize an entire room with one slow turn of her head. But the woman behind that glamorous image carried a childhood so heavy, It shaped every part of who she became. She grew up in a family of dancers, always on the move, always performing. From the outside, it looked exciting, almost magical. But inside that world was something far darker. Rita's father was strict, controlling, and according to later accounts, crossed lines no parent should ever cross. She learned early that the stage was safer than home, that applause was easier to understand than the people who were supposed to protect her. Hollywood didn't save her. It just gave her a brighter spotlight to hide under. Studios changed her name, her hairline, her identity, molding her into the fantasy men wanted. And Rita played the role because it was what she'd been trained to do since childhood. Smile, perform, endure. But behind those iconic roles was a woman always trying to outrun the shadows she grew up with. Her relationships were turbulent, her trust fragile, her confidence never quite rooted. Not because she lacked talent, but because her early years taught her to survive, not thrive. Rita Hayworth wasn't just a symbol of beauty. She was a survivor, someone who turned a painful, confusing childhood into a career that defined an era. The tragedy is that Hollywood celebrated the fantasy, and almost no one saw the girl who paid the price for it. See, Joan Crawford is one of those Hollywood names wrapped in diamonds and legend. The razor-sharp cheekbones, the power stare, the larger-than-life glamour. But the woman underneath all that shine came from a childhood as rough and unstable as they come. She wasn't born into privilege, she was born into chaos. Money was nearly non-existent, her family moved constantly, and nothing ever felt secure. Her stepfather, a man who should have protected her, was later accused of crossing terrible boundaries when she was still a girl. That kind of betrayal doesn't just hurt, it rewires how you see the world. Joan grew up learning to fend for herself, to fight for attention, to earn affection by being useful, perfect, impressive. By the time she was a teenager, she wasn't dreaming, she was surviving. And when Hollywood finally entered the picture, she walked in with the hunger of someone who had never been given anything for free. That intensity people saw on screen, it came from real places, from a girl who'd been overlooked, underestimated, and pushed aside too many times. The discipline, the ambition, the need for control, all of it was rooted in a childhood where she had none. Joan Crawford didn't just reinvent herself, she rebuilt herself. Every inch of glamour was armor. Every award was proof that she'd outrun the life she came from. Her past was dark, painful, and messy, but it forged a woman Hollywood could never ignore. Lana Turner comes next in our timeline, and her story fits the theme more than most people realize. To the world, she was the blonde bombshell, the woman who seemed born for the spotlight. But the truth? Her childhood looked nothing like the glamorous legend she grew into. Lana was just a kid when her family life fell apart. Money was tight, stability was a luxury, and after her father was murdered in a still unsolved case, her world cracked wide open. She bounced between homes, including a foster situation where she later said she'd been mistreated, the kind of experience that plants fear and distrust deep inside a child. By her teens, she was already learning how to survive on her own, drifting through Los Angeles with more dreams than resources. And then came the famous Hollywood discovery, spotted at a soda counter and thrust into a world she wasn't prepared for. People love that fairy tale version, but they forget what came before. A girl who never had a steady place to land, suddenly asked to carry the fantasies of millions. Lana played the part beautifully. The poise, the confidence, the sensuality, all of it hit a young woman still dealing with wounds from a childhood full of instability and fear. That vulnerability underneath is exactly what made her so magnetic on screen. Her rise wasn't just luck, it was a kid who'd been through too much, finally finding a stage big enough to outrun her past, even if Hollywood never let her outrun it for long. Marilyn Monroe is the final name on this list, and maybe the one whose past hits the hardest once you look past the legend. To the world, she was the blonde dream. The breathy voice, the playful smile, the woman who rewrote what it meant to be a sex symbol, but none of that came from a happy beginning. Marilyn started life with the deck stacked against her. Born to a mother battling severe mental illness, she never had a stable home. Instead, she was passed from one foster house to another, drifting through strangers' living rooms, learning to survive in places where she never truly belonged. Some of those homes were cold, some were cruel, and at least one was dangerous, a place where she later said she was abused. Those early wounds stayed with her, shaping the way she trusted, loved, and saw herself. Even when she entered an orphanage, she wasn't broken, but she was alone, deeply alone. She learned to smile as a shield, to perform as a way to be wanted, to create light in the places where none existed. That instinct to transform pain into charm is exactly what made her magnetic in front of the camera. By the time Hollywood discovered her, Marilyn had already survived more than most adults ever will. The softness people adored was hard-earned. The vulnerability people romanticized came from real, lifelong hurt. And the confidence she projected, it was something she built, brick by brick, to protect the frightened girl underneath. Marilyn Monroe didn't become a star because life blessed her. She became a star because she fought her way out of darkness and turned all that he hurt into a glow the world still hasn't forgotten.